Good afternoon. This is Paula Carey. I'm the Chief Justice of the Trial Court in Massachusetts, and I'd like to welcome you to this town hall in Lawrence. We are so grateful that all of you have chosen to tune in with us today. We hope that you will learn a great deal about the trial court and what kinds of services we offer to you and your families. This is one of 4 town halls that we have conducted across the Commonwealth. We expect that we'll continue to produce these town halls because they have been extraordinarily helpful to the public. And we're proud of the work that we do in our court system. We hope that what you will learn today is some helpful information as you navigate through these uncertain times. Not only will you hear from members of our trial court family, but you will also hear from members of your community. And you will hear about resources that are available to you as you help manage this pandemic and manage any legal needs that you may have during these difficult times. We hope that you will learn about issues such as eviction and the eviction moratorium, about drug and alcohol abuse, parenting and visitation, and where you can go for legal assistance regarding domestic violence and many other legal issues. We hope that you'll learn many other issues, learn about many other services that the trial court provides to those in our communities. You'll hear from judges and you'll hear from others who will explain how you can access our courts. This community outreach is something we're particularly proud of as we continuously move to meet the needs of those individuals who we serve. At this time, I'd like to introduce one of our community partners, who is the coordinator of the City of Lawrence's Mayor's Health Task Force, Vilma Martinez Dominguez. She was the former director of social service initiatives for the YWCA in Northeastern Massachusetts. Prior to her appointment, she was serving as that coordinator with a contractual agreement with the YMCA. She worked there for 24 years, so she's been active in the community. Under her leadership, the Mayor's Health Task Force increased its membership, its partnerships, and its capacity, and evolved into a strong grassroots multi-sector coalition under the Office of Planning and Development, whose vision is to promote health equality for all through advocacy, education, capacity building, and networking. We are so grateful to have her here today to talk a little bit about the resources in the City of Lawrence, as well as how we all can work together to serve the needs of the community. So thank you again, and welcome, Ms. Martinez Dominguez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this virtual town hall and represent our municipal government and Mayor Daniel Rivera, who is our chief, right, for our city. Before I speak about some of the resources, just one point of clarification. I am the Community Development Director for the City of Lawrence, and I'll give you some information about how does it fit into, how the Mayor's Health Task Force fits into this whole community development. And also, before I speak about some of the resources available to the Lawrence community, I wanted to give you just a bit of information about what do we do here at the Office of Planning and Development where I work. Our department plays an important role in our city government. It is a department where housing, public infrastructure, and business development related projects are discussed. and decisions are made to help move our city forward and enhance the quality of life of our diverse community. We aim to create a balance between the needs identified by our community through a variety of tools and assessments, and that of citizens and investors, all while upholding state and local regulations. Under the umbrella of the Office of Planning and Development, we also have the Planning and Zoning Department, Community Development, Business and Economic Development, and Inspectional Services. Right under the Inspectional Services, we also have our Public Health Department and the Board of Health. So you see all the connections that exist, particularly as it relates to our COVID response to COVID. Understanding that health inequalities are deeply rooted in socioeconomic factors and therefore connected to community and economic development, the City of Lawrence assumes a health in all policies approach in our work to create a healthy community. So this is where you see the Mayor's Health Task Force sort of sits within the Office of Planning and Development. And the Mayor's Health Task Force is a multi-sector coalition that promotes health equity for all, as previously stated. And my colleague Alicia Miller will speak more about this coalition. As some of you may know, Lawrence is still 5th in the state when it comes to cases of coronavirus, with 3,811 cases recorded. We have, as a city, our own challenges, being an immigrant community with close to 80% immigrant residents. We're the second poorest in the Commonwealth. And currently our unemployment rate, it's close to 33% compared to the state's 17%. So, but Lawrence is also known for its strong network of partners and ability to come together to respond to any crisis, such as the Columbia gas explosion in 2018 and now the COVID pandemic. The Office of Planning and Development, along with other city departments, has played a critical role in our response, emergency response, to ensure the safety and well-being of all of our residents, particularly those who are most vulnerable, such as the homeless or housing insecure, and our business community. The city knows that we can't do this work alone, so we work in collaboration with over 60 nonprofits from the area, building on a platform that emerged organically to respond to the Columbia gas disaster in 2018. It operates under the auspice of wearelawrence.org, a community-wide platform where resources and information are centralized. And when we responded to the COVID-19, we actually broke down into different subgroups to make sure that we can address all the issues that were emerging in our city. So we looked at financial and housing stability, we looked at food access, we looked at behavioral health, we looked at homelessness and community outreach, how we're getting the information onto the community. I will encourage everyone, and I got a call earlier today, people looking for a centralized place where all this information can be found. You can go to www.wearelawrence.org, and you can find a lot of information and resources there. You can also go to the city website, www.cityoflawrence.com, and you can access a lot of information there as well. Among the many resources offered by the city, nonprofits, and for-profit organizations, residents and business owners could find information, first of all, about the CARES Act. There's many pieces to the CARES Act, and people may not know which part refers to them. So anything from unemployment assistance to paid sick leave, to housing protections and the moratorium, to forgivable loans for small businesses, to anything and everything that's COVID-19 you can find on that website, in addition to obviously the mass.gov website. As far as Lawrence is concerned, we have really provided a ton of information and resources. When it comes to public health, one of the things that we are known for is we began providing free COVID testing. And I know the mayors or the administration committed $1 million to make sure that we increase access to testing. And this has been a partnership between Lawrence General Hospital, Greater Lawrence Family Health Center, and the City of Lawrence's Health and Human Services Department. There are two ways that you can get tested. There's a tent behind the Lawrence General Hospital, and they're open from 9 to 4:30. Unfortunately, they're closing today at 2 o'clock because of Isaias. I guess there's a storm coming, so we want to make sure that we're safe. And then there's also mobile testing through the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center. There are various locations that are offering testing through August 24th. So far, there has been 20 locations visited and over 750 people tested. This is free for all Lawrence residents, regardless of symptoms, regardless of health insurance coverage, regardless of immigration status. Bring an ID if you can. If you don't have it, that's not going to stop you from being tested. It's completely free. There's also contact tracing, which is quite important to make sure that we keep records on how people that are being tested or testing positive, how do we provide follow-up to these individuals and those who have been close to them. And so we have been able to do that primarily through our inspectional services department, the public health department. We have also, through our health and
I'm sorry, Vilma, would you please unmute your audio?
You can't hear her, Rose?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear her now? Okay.
Were you able to listen to everything I said? I will stop until I'm notified.
We can hear you now, Vilma.
Okay. Were you able to hear the information that I provided thus far?
I could hear all of them.
Could you repeat the last about minute of what you were providing?
So Department of Health and Human Services for the city, its directors, Martha Velez, they have worked closely with inspectional services and the Board of Health to distribute flyers and education around COVID-19, and they're conducting wellness calls on a daily basis to residents and seniors, and over 20,000 calls have been made to date. They also deliver food and sanitizing supplies to over 900 COVID-19 patients, organized and implemented food delivery to the community, and assisted food pantries with PPE information. We have partnered with Lawrence Housing Authorities, understanding that there's a large number of residents that live in this housing developments, to deliver over 1,500 bags of food. Deliver masks and ice cream to elderly housing, and work with closely with the library to record educational wellness programs. Food insecurity is a major issue for our city, given everything that is going on. And so meals to go at local food pantries, you can find a full schedule on wearelawrence.org, where these meals can be picked up, or you can sign up for it. Food delivery services for elderlies and families, that's another thing. I think Health and Human Services have been working really closely with elder services to make sure that they identify any homebound elder to elder services, and that Meals on Wheels are delivered. So over 400 elders have received Meals on Wheels on a daily basis. There's a lot of information about public benefits. How do you apply for SNAP and WIC and the pandemic EBT? That's all on our wearelawrence.org. On-site farmers market, how people can have access to both a virtual and on-site farmers market here in Lawrence. Housing has been a major issue for us. I know that at the onset of the pandemic, we live in a very densely populated city, and so we knew that we needed to depopulate some of those, not only the shelters, but people who lived in housing that could not safely distance from one another. So we opened 3 shelters. 2 of them were quarantine sites and 1 was an isolation site. Unfortunately, these are all closed. They just closed recently, and over 227 people were served through this effort. We work closely with Northeast Legal Aid, and people can find information about their rights as tenants and their rights under this moratorium. And they can contact Mirta Kupelis, and you can find this information also on the wearelawrence.org. Rental assistance is another major issue. We know that there have been some funds that come down from the federal government and the state government. So RAFT and IRMA, both financial assistance, rental assistance for people at different income levels, particularly low income, through our partner Community Action Council. And the city just received 2 allocations of funding for rental assistance for really low income families, over $1 million. So we're going to be working closely with one of the community partners to disseminate these funds. There's also a lot of assistance for local businesses. I'm not going to get much into it, but you can contact Pedro Soto and Esther Encarnacion in our office. They work for the Planning Department of Business and Economic Development. There was a bilingual business guide created that you can find it on the city website that lists out all of the resources available for businesses, both in English and Spanish. And the other thing that we did as a city is also create a bilingual business support helpline. Anybody that wants information, any business that wants information right now on the resources available or assistance on how to apply for the different programs can call 978-291-8106. This department, along with inspectional services, has been working with small businesses, providing PPE starter kits. Over 100,000 masks has been given out, and over 100 cases of sanitizer to local businesses have been given out. This is also this effort is being paid by the Gas Disaster Relief Fund, and Lawrence Partnership has also played a role in that effort. Finally, we know that businesses are suffering, our small businesses, and so a couple of ideas have come up. One of them is the Lawrence Park Box, and it's a pilot program right now. You'll see it along Essex Street, where the expanded outdoor dining area for businesses has been opened, this pilot, providing support to small businesses that could not open any other way, have no space or infrastructure to open up sort of like a parklet program. And right now, also the city received over $1 million in CDBG funds, Community Development Block Grants, and we are planning to offer up to $10,000 to small businesses to assist with business operations. So this is gonna launch either late in August or in early September. And finally, the Lawrence One Fund. And one of the things that we notice is that there's many families and individuals that do not qualify generally for all the relief assistance that exists. Particularly, we have an undocumented population that lives within our city. And this is funded primarily by the United Way, and residents can receive a one-time support of up to $300 in gift cards. And these are being disseminated by the center, which is the senior center, Groundwork Lawrence, ACT Lawrence, Lawrence Community Works, and Greater Lawrence Community Action Council. Over 1,000 people have been served to date, and you can call at 978-620-4717. And I say this because I understand there's a ton of information out there right now that people are so confused. They don't know where to go. How do I get information? What applies to me? So visit the wearelawrence.org or somoslawrence.org for centralized information, or visit the mass.gov for general information. And lastly, I want to just end by saying that I want to remind our citizens, our residents, about the importance of completing the Census 2020. It determines our federal funding for the next 10 years. People don't understand that this impacts our schools, our housing, our public infrastructure, public safety. I mean, you name it, and it really has an impact on the funding that we will receive as a city. So I encourage you to go to www.census2020.gov or call 1-844-468-2020. Also, the center is assisting anyone that doesn't have any access to any technology and maybe needs information on how to fill it out at 978-620-3550. You can find information there. So Lawrence, let's just stand up and be counted. And with this, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity once again. Lawrence is very blessed to have tons of resources, and I hope that people take advantage of it. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my colleague, Alicia Miller, who's a coordinator for the City of Lawrence Mayor's Task. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Vilma noted, my name is Alicia Miller, and I coordinate the Mayor's Health Task Force. Vilma has gone through a lot of the resources, but before I continue, I just wanted to say a little bit about the task force, who we are and what we do. So the Mayor's Health Task Force is a multi-sector coalition that promotes health equity through advocacy, education, capacity building, and networking, all to promote a healthy, safe, and thriving community for all residents. We believe in inclusivity, community, collaboration, compassion, and grassroots engagement. And to the extent possible, we employ these values to the work that we do. The Mayor's Health Task Force is staffed by 5 members, but is supported by a network of over 60 partner organizations, locally, regionally, and statewide. We operate in 4 areas of health: adolescent health, behavioral and mental health, healthy active living, and homelessness. Each working group has a co-chair or co-chairs and who are local providers and practitioners in the community. And we are guided by our research initiative working group that helps with research processes and helps with training and workshops for each of our partners or working groups. Lawrence and other minority communities, as many of you know, have been impacted disproportionately by the coronavirus. The social determinants of health that are defined as conditions in places where people live, work, play, and pray affect a wide range of risks and health outcomes, and are largely poverty and low income limit access to stable housing. It limits access to safe communities. It limits access to healthy foods and good quality education. And we all know these are factors that affect your health outcomes. So what are some of the factors that have affected minority communities? Healthcare access and utilization. Minority people are more likely to be uninsured or underinsured, and this impacts how they respond to the coronavirus. Their access is also limited by transportation, childcare, communication barriers, cultural differences between providers and patients, ability to take time off to go to the doctor, as well as other practices in healthcare. It's also affected by occupation. Most minority workers are found in essential Sorry about that. I lost you for a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you. In education, minorities normally have lower attainment rates, and so this affects their ability to take time off. It affects their ability to have flexibility around going to the doctor and having unstable and low-paying jobs. And in housing, minorities tend to live in larger households. In some cultures, extended family situations are quite common. Increasing costs is also leading to overcrowded situations, such so that costs can be shared. If that doesn't happen, then people run the risk of being evicted or becoming homeless. So what has been our response as a Mayor's Health Task Force and as a city? Vilma has alluded to many of them. We are part of the community's fabric. The Mayor's Health Task Force and its staff, along with the We Are Lawrence network, has been able to maintain, support, and connected our residents over the last few months. Together, we have created flyers. We do increased virtual outreach, increased outreach by mail, by word of mouth. We've increased awareness of telehealth offerings, both medical and behavioral health, connected residents to needed service, and all these can be found on the www.wearelawrence.org network. We encourage all our residents, all our providers to go to that website in order to get information. We've also been able to host virtual trainings for our behavioral health providers. And for our residents, we've held virtual youth summits, youth events. We've been able to host community helplines for behavioral health. We have supported the contact tracing efforts in the city, and through our partners, we've extended access to fresh fruits and vegetables through extended winter markets. So what is next for the behavioral health, for the Mayor's Health Task Force and its partners? We know that there's a next phase coming, we've heard it. And so we will keep on keeping on. We'll keep educating and encouraging our residents to follow issued guidelines, to wear masks, to maintain physical distancing where possible, to keep on cleaning high touch areas, your doorknobs, your desks, if you're at work, if you're at home, your tables, your doorknobs going in and out of the house. Make sure you keep your medical appointments, and you can find information either on your provider's website, or you may have a number. Keep that appointment as much as possible. And seek help. Help is available to everyone. We've talked about the We Are Lawrence website. We are also able to provide service through the center, formerly the Senior Center, and they can be reached at 978-620-3540. So if you have questions, someone there will be able to assist you. And as a last resort, you can always refer to us. You can reach me, Alicia Miller, at 978-620-3527. Next steps for us will be also creating opportunities to guide and inform residents on the next phases of reopening and reintegration as the virus persists. We will next turn our attention to back to school, because that's on everybody's mind. How will people get to school safely if they have to return to brick and mortar? How will children be transported to and from school? So we'll be taking a look at that with our partners from Safe Routes to School. And we'll also be looking at the eviction moratorium, which looms largely on this community as well as many others across the nation. What will happen once the moratorium is lifted? We will be giving, we have been working with a few of our residents who have been unstably housed, or who have become homeless as a result of fires or even the COVID. And we can, along with the information from We Are Lawrence, residents can also find information on our various Facebook accounts, whether it's the city's Facebook accounts or the center's Facebook accounts, the Mayor's Health Task Force Facebook accounts, or partners accounts, Lawrence General Hospital, the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center. There are many places on Facebook and other social online platforms where information can be found. And for those persons who are at risk of being homeless or who are currently unstably housed, we do have the Homelessness Intervention and Prevention Coordinator that sits within our department. Her name is Sandy Guerriere, and she can be reached at 978-620-3523 or 857-3033. Again, her name is Sandy Guerriere, and she can be reached at 978-620-3523 or 978-857-3033. Sandy can help, again, with stabilizing families, stabilizing individuals. She works with the Emergency Solutions Grant, and she's also able to help with home base for families who need it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judge Lynn Rooney. I'm the first justice of the Lawrence District Court. I know it says Judge Ahern under my picture. That's because I had a little technical difficulty this morning, and Judge Ahern was kind enough to invite me to share her laptop with her. Before I talk to you about the district court and what we're doing here, I want to, we're going to show you a video, and the video is going to explain for you what you should expect if you actually do come over to the Fenton Judicial Center, because things are a lot different now with COVID, and we don't want anyone to be surprised. So it's a short video, it's about 4 minutes long, and after we've had an opportunity to watch that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the district court. Okay, so I just wanted to draw a couple things to your attention. I know you saw there were some pictures of a courtroom and there were spaces marked for people to sit. That's because we have a capacity limit on the entire building for members of the public. So you will be counted as you come into the building. So we know how many people are in here at any given time. And we'll also count people as they leave the building. So we'll know that. What I just want to make sure people understand is if you choose to come to the courthouse, you will likely be able to get in the front door, but you might not be able to actually get into the courtroom where you want to see something that's going on. We have to make sure that the actual litigants are able to come into the courtroom so we can address their cases. And sometimes that's going to mean that a friend or a family member that accompanies someone to the courthouse might not be able to actually get in the courtroom. We do, though, have the ability for anyone who wants to listen to what's happening in the courtroom. We have a phone number available. The court officers can provide that to you at the front door, and you can call that number and you'll be able to hear everything that's happening in the courtroom. You can't see it, but you will be able to listen in. As to what we're actually seeing and doing in person in the district court, very few things. People who have been arrested and charged with a criminal offense are coming into the courthouse to be arraigned. Those are people both who are in custody, they're brought over here to the courthouse, and people who have been released and told to come to court in a particular day. We do some bail, we'll do all the bail arguments in person. We will do a dangerousness hearing in person, but we will also do them virtually over Zoom. And the reason that we're doing that, and we are encouraging people, if at all possible, to do them over Zoom, is just like we have a limited number of spaces for members of the public, we have a very limited number of spaces for people who are in custody. So before any police department brings a person over who is in custody, they call our court officers to see if we have room. And I can tell you that even today, we didn't have enough room, so we had to ask them to hold people at the police station until we were able to free up some space to allow people to come in. So we're encouraging lawyers and litigants, if we can do things by Zoom on the computer, it will enable us to hear things more quickly and give people a shorter date. If people have an outstanding warrant for either an open criminal case or a probation matter, you can come to the courthouse to remove that warrant. If you want or need to file a mental health petition, either for a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, you can come to the courthouse and do that in person. If you are going to post bail for someone, you can come to the courthouse, go to the clerk's office and post bail. Similarly, if you want to get a return of bail, you also can come into the courthouse, go to the clerk's office and get that bail. Pretty much everything else is being done virtually. All pretrial matters, anything to do with any criminal cases, everything is virtual. Restraining orders, people can call on the phone to get an ex parte order, and we do those all the time. I will tell you, some people have come to the courthouse. I think there was maybe a little bit of misunderstanding about what is open. If someone does come to the courthouse seeking either a restraining order under 209A or a harassment order, we are hearing those in person because we would never turn anybody away that was seeking protection. But the return hearings, all of those are being done virtually. So again, just to reiterate, arraignments are being done in person. If you have a warrant, you need to remove it, you can come do that. If you need to petition for help for a family member, for a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, you can come to the courthouse and do that. If you have to post bail or get bail returned, you can come to the courthouse and do that. All of those things are available. And as I said, if you have a friend or a family member who is coming to the courthouse for one of those things and you want to accompany them, you are welcome to come, but we cannot guarantee you that you'll be able to actually go into the courtroom where that person is at the given time their case is being called, because we have to stick strictly to the number of people that can come into the courthouse and the courtrooms to protect everyone's safety. I'm going to turn and ask Liz Shimoni, who is an advocate over at the YWCA, to talk a little bit more about restraining orders and harassment orders and the help that they can offer you if you're in need of such a service. Liz?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz. I am the Senior Safe Plan Advocate that oversees the Lawrence District Court and the Haverhill District Court, as well as the Lawrence Probate and Family Court. In working with clients during COVID-19, it's super apparent to me that it's a time of much uncertainty and fear for these clients. A lot of clients are living with abusers. They're not sure what to do, where to go, how to fill out restraining orders and harassment orders, and overall just how to stay safe. So I'm super thankful for a forum like this to help bring more awareness and clarity in such a crazy time. So I just wanted to get into a little bit about how we fit as a piece of the puzzle with everything that has to do with COVID-19 and getting a restraining order. As a safe plan advocate, we provide assistance to victims. At the Lawrence District Court, where there's 2 advocates that are both bilingual. And we also assist with, like I said, the Lawrence Probate and Family Court 209A restraining orders. We help to guide these clients through the process, how to fill out the orders. We answer questions, what happens next. What happens next is probably the biggest question I always get. Clients are always trying to figure out, how is it that I give this restraining order or this harassment order its power? So we kind of go through the process of explaining that to them. We help advocate for them by connecting them to legal resources in the community that can assist them with whatever case they have. We also connect them to the district attorney's office and the victim witness advocates that work there for those that may have criminal cases as a result of their abuse. We help to create a safety plan that's tailored specifically for their needs. So let's say if the client is living with an abuser, we provide tips and tricks on how to stay safe. We come up with a plan for the client to figure out how to leave a situation or how to take legal action without the fear of repercussions for doing so. Most importantly, we do provide clients with empowerment. So that's a big one, giving them a voice, showing them that cultural upbringing or economic status shouldn't deter them from seeking help and getting out of an abusive situation. In relation to empowerment, we also suggest seeking out counseling through the YWCA FINA House. That's specifically the area that I work in. We have bilingual counselors. They can tailor their plan as well, specifically for the client. They can also help to refer out to agencies that may be more efficient for the client's needs. And they help them take steps to really overcome, the unfortunate circumstances that they're going through. So in order to reach out to a safe plan advocate, you would contact the YWCA FINA House office number, which is 978-682-3039. And clients can ask for a safe plan advocate, or they can ask specifically just for help with a restraining order. All the counselors there know to contact one of us, and we'll get in contact with the client through a blocked number. I've also wanted to just touch base on the domestic violence and sexual assault hotlines that we offer. They're 24-hour hotlines. They are amazing to use for crisis intervention, assistance, and referrals. And they're great for those times where clients might not be able to sleep. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and they kind of can't get the idea of what they're going through out of their head. So the domestic violence hotline number is 1-844-372-9922. And the sexual assault hotline number is 1-877-509-9922. So I'll repeat that again. Domestic violence is 1-844-372-9922. And the sexual assault hotline number is 1-877-509-9922. And I'll pass it back over to Judge Rooney.
Thanks, Liz. So I'm going to turn it over now to Judge Sal Tabit from the Superior Court, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about what's happening up the street. I know he's not up there right now, but he will be coming back soon, but he can provide you all that kind of information about what you need to know about the Superior Court. Judge Tabit?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Judge Rooney. As Judge Rooney mentioned, I am an Associate Justice in the Superior Court. And in Essex County, we have 3 Superior Courts, and one of them is in Lawrence. One thing that I think is important to understand and realize is that in Essex County, all cases, whether they are civil in nature or criminal, originate in Salem. And so unless there is a civil emergency matter, all cases essentially originate in Salem and then are designated out to the 3 Superior Courts. In Salem, we hear civil and criminal cases. In Newburyport, we only hear civil cases. And in Lawrence, which I think is most relevant to this conversation, we hear both civil and criminal cases. But in those instances where a criminal case is being heard, it is typically assigned to that court from Salem, whether that is a trial, a motion, or even a probation matter. So it's important to understand that. During the pandemic, we've been handling emergency matters, as I think most of our courts have done. Our in-person hearings have been quite limited, just like the district courts. But we are opening up, like all the other courts, slowly. And currently, we are hearing almost, I think, all types of matters, either remotely or in person. Now, as I mentioned, we handle criminal cases as well as civil cases. So let me address the criminal cases first. Criminal motions of any sort, whether they be arraignments in the Superior Court or dangerousness hearings within the Superior Court, are being done remotely, unless the defendant happens to be on the street or not detained, in which case that defendant comes into court. A detained defendant for those types of hearings are typically present for any hearings that he or she may have through video conference. Now, with respect to motions that require the taking of evidence, those matters we are handling in person. And so if a defendant is detained, that defendant will be brought into court for that evidentiary hearing, such as a motion to suppress, for example, or some other type of evidentiary hearing. Or in an instance where a defendant has decided to plead guilty, that defendant is also brought in from the jail for a plea and sentencing in person, unless, of course, the defendant is not detained. With respect to civil matters, we're doing our best to hear all sorts of motions via video conferencing or teleconference. We're also trying to consider handling evidentiary matters with the agreement of the attorneys through video conferencing. So to the extent that litigants and their attorneys say wish to have a trial by video conference that is not a jury trial, we're doing those as well. So at least, and obviously our courthouses and our courtrooms are limited in their capacity. So just like Judge Rooney said, we're having more people come into court, but still due to social distancing and capacity, we can't be bringing in the number of detained individuals or family members or the like that we would like in court. But with the exception, and it's a very big exception, with the exception of jury trials, we are doing everything, either remotely or in person. And I know that I mean, jury trials is probably the most, I don't know if it's the most important thing, but certainly at the top of the list with respect to what we do. And I think the video indicated that we wouldn't be having any jury trials anywhere, at least until September. And I wish I had a better idea or a better sense as to when we'll start jury trials for certain, but I'm not sure. So at least in the Superior Court, and I suspect in the District Court and other courts, we are trying to figure out a way that we can accommodate juries so that we're ready to do so once that moratorium is lifted on jury trials, especially since, at least in the criminal cases that we deal with, we have a lot of people who are in custody and detained and awaiting their day in court. So that's a few of the things that we've been doing. And again, I reiterate, like everyone has, that our courts are open for business. And whether it's remotely or through limited access, nonetheless, we are open. And I think that if people take the time to investigate sort of the resources available to them and the rules and regulations and procedures, it's not easy, it's an inconvenience. But I think that we can continue to do business and that litigants can get matters heard and their matters resolved. Thank you. I don't know if we're going back to Judge William or not, but.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Ahern. I'm the first justice of the Essex Juvenile Court. Thank you for having me address the public today. I wanted to talk a little bit about how the juvenile court is running pursuant to the COVID-19 issues that we're dealing with. We have 4 sites in Essex County for our juvenile courts. One is in Lawrence, one is in Salem, one is in Lynn, and one is in Newburyport. At this time, the juvenile court is conducting very limited in-person hearings. Those are essentially the more serious criminal cases that require witnesses testifying. The juvenile court handles a multitude of cases. We handle the criminal cases that I just referenced, including youthful offender cases, which are the most serious criminal cases. We handle children requiring assistance petitions, where we assist parents when they have issues with their children either not attending school, being stubborn, or running away from their home. And we also handle child welfare cases where there are allegations that children have been abused or neglected by their caretakers. In addition to those cases, we also handle mental health petitions, substance abuse petitions, and harassment orders that involve individuals who are under the age of 18. So again, at this time, we're dealing mostly with the criminal cases in person, and we're trying to effectuate all other cases being done remotely, either via telephone conference or Zoom. One of the challenges that we face in the juvenile court is that, with the exception of the serious criminal cases, the juvenile court matters are confidential. So we need to ensure when we use teleconference lines that only the parties have access to those lines and that confidentiality is not breached at any point. So that's one of the obligations we have in the juvenile court. We are working with members of the community to assist parents who are having challenges with their children during this time period. We're trying to effectuate most of that happening remotely so parents don't have to come to court. We realize that a lot of parents have children who are home from school or camp at this time, and it's problematic for them to have to bring 2 or 3 children to court and enter the building. So our clerk's office and our probation office have tried working with community members to effectuate most of this being done remotely. So child requiring assistance petitions are being filed remotely, and we're teleconferencing parents in to try and assist them with the issues that they're having at home with their children. We have a very dedicated court clinic who is also in the building and available to help with these issues. They're excellent at connecting parents with resources in the community that can assist parents during these challenging times. We've established a drop box in the front of the courthouse where parents can drop off paperwork for our court clinic, for our clerk's office and our probation department. Additionally, we're working closely with community members. One of the biggest concerns that we currently have in the juvenile court is that community entities that typically report to the Department of Children and Families concerns around children being abused and neglected are no longer seeing those children due to the pandemic. For example, we often get concerns reported to the Department of Children and Families from school teachers, from therapists, from pediatricians, and obviously during this difficult time period, there aren't as many eyes on children in the community as much as we would like. So we have some real concerns about what's going on behind closed doors during this challenging time. So I encourage you as members of the public, if you have concerns about children, please continue to contact the Department of Children and Families and make them aware of any concerns you have in the community about the children who aren't being seen like they used to be prior to COVID taking place. Again, we're here to assist you and work with you and answer any questions that you may have. Our clerk's office is fielding calls all day long, and we have a dedicated probation staff who's also willing to work with you to try and problem solve and assist with any needs or requests you have in the community. Thank you for this opportunity to address the community. At this time, I'm going to introduce First Justice Jennifer Ulwick of the Probate and Family Court. Justice Ulwick.
Thank you. I apologize. I had to unmute myself there. So thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this program today. I am the First Justice of the Essex Probate and Family Court. And just to give you a background as to our locations, we have locations in Salem and Lawrence. Salem is our primary location. Although unlike some of the other courts, you can file in the Lawrence court or in the Salem court. So Lawrence does have a full registry, and we do take filings in there. We break up our Essex County for Lawrence to be anyone who has one party residing in either Lawrence, Methuen, or Andover. All other towns in the County of Essex are heard in the Salem court. Even though Haverhill is right there, it happens to be a very large population, and so we can only handle that in Salem because we have just one judge who is sitting in Lawrence, and we have 4 judges who are sitting in Salem. As I stated, both of those courts have registries, and both of our registries in those locations are open. So our Lawrence registry is open, our Lawrence probation office is open. We have the court service center, as may have been mentioned, in Lawrence, and we do make use of that. And in Salem, we have a lawyer for the day. Both of those are operating remotely at this point in time. Our registries, although open to the public and you can come in and file things in person, we do have options so that you can file remotely. So we have a virtual registry available, and there is a Zoom link for that, which hopefully can be put up. But I can copy and share that through the chat as well so that everyone can have that link. And that is, there's no password to that. You log in, and as soon as one of the registry employees is available, they will pull you into the virtual registry, speak to you about what papers you need. they can email you papers through that virtual registry. You can also file that way. The e-filing is available, and we have an email address to file pleadings as well. So after the COVID pandemic hit as of March, in March, we were not hearing cases. We quickly turned to teleconferencing in April, and by May, we were using Zoom. We have been having Zoom hearings since then, as well as telephone conferences. Primarily, we are using the Zoom platform, and we are using that to conduct all types of hearings, although we are also holding in-person hearings. So in our court, we are handling custody and parenting issues, child support issues, guardianship of minors cases, guardianship of adults, conservators of adults, and abuse prevention order, restraining orders, to name some of them. We have other cases, but those are primarily the ones that are on our docket. With the restraining orders, we have been hearing those in person unless somebody is requesting not to appear in person. So we have been trying to make certain accommodations. If somebody has health issues or is an advanced age that they do not wish to come to the court, we are trying to make accommodations to hold hearings by Zoom. However, if there is a request to have an evidentiary hearing and somebody is seeking to have an in-person hearing, we're trying to generally have those in person. We have emergency hearings in person right now as well, so that if somebody came to the court with an emergency request for custody, to suspend parenting time, we would hear that in person in our courtroom. Generally, we are not having in-person hearings. We are trying to keep to as many remote hearings as possible. You do not have to come to the court to file your emergency hearing. As I said, you can file that through the virtual registry, and we will, that comes to the judge who's assigned to the case, and then that judge will review it and can either contact the person by telephone or by Zoom. When we have things that are submitted to us, you need to provide a telephone number or an email address so that we can contact back to you. If you do not have a telephone available to you or an email address, we are open so you can come in person so we can handle that. We do have our probation office still operating, but they are not hearing people in person right now. So they are conducting the dispute interventions for our cases on our regular docket by telephone and possibly by Zoom in the future. And those are all by pre-referral. So in the past, where you may come into the probate court for a hearing and you were referred down to probation that morning and you would have your hearing later on in the day, we currently have probation contact you and schedule a telephone hearing. We do have interpreters available for those dispute interventions, and we do have Spanish-speaking probation officers who are available when we need to contact people to set up those dispute interventions. Similarly, I should mention in our virtual registry, we do have the capability to put you with somebody who speaks Spanish if necessary. If you call in and you are unable to communicate with somebody in the virtual registry because of a language barrier, if you let them know, we will try to make sure that we get an interpreter for you, or if we have a staff member who speaks your language, that we can put you in connection with that staff member. We also have been trying very hard to use the Essex County Bar Association conciliation program to try to help resolve as many cases as possible without the need to go through the court system. We are pretty backlogged in our cases, and we are trying very hard to get through all of those cases, but the technology that we have is somewhat slow, so we are hearing far less cases than we have in the past. Just another mention in terms of our probation department continues to conduct interventions as well as investigations. As long as the children are over the age of 12, they will interview children, but they are not interviewing children under the age of 12 right now. They are also still conducting drug screens and following up with people who are on probation through either a drug screen or through seek work. So we are being very cautious of how many people we are having in person and trying, like most of the courts, to keep things remote for the safety of all of the people, all of our litigants and our staff members. And so again, I urge you, if you have any questions, to reach out to the virtual registry and to try to speak with somebody there to try to help direct you to where you need to go to get the relief that you're seeking in our court. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Ulrich. And next to speak to Housing Court Matters, we have First Justice Gustavo Del Puerto.
Thank you. My name is Gustavo Del Puerto. I'm the first justice of the Northeast Housing Court, which is based here in Lawrence. That's our main office. We're a regional court, but our central office is in Lawrence. The Housing Court generally hears all types of cases involving housing problems or issues. This could be anything from an eviction case to a case where someone is suing somebody else for money damages related to a housing problem, to a case where a city or town wants the court to enforce a building code or a sanitary code against a residential property owner. Historically, most of the cases we see in this court have been related to an eviction. Currently, there is a law in effect until October 17, 2020, which has stopped most, but not all evictions. This law was passed as one of the responses to the current COVID-19 pandemic. You may have heard this law referred to as the eviction moratorium. It's a state law. There's also a federal law that affects a moratorium on evictions, but the main law protecting tenants against eviction in Massachusetts, I would say, is the state eviction moratorium. In summary, the eviction moratorium prohibits a landlord from terminating a tenancy or from bringing an eviction action in what that law calls a quote-unquote non-essential eviction. The eviction moratorium law defines evictions brought for non-payment of rent or brought for no reason at all as non-essential evictions. And that type of eviction cannot be processed, cannot be brought to the court until after October 17, 2020. Just because there is a moratorium on evictions does not mean that the housing problems have ceased to exist. What that means is that the court has been open and remains open even though the pandemic continues. For as long as the COVID-19 state of emergency remains in effect, in order to protect the safety and to minimize person-to-person exposure, most contact with the court will be done through the telephone or through video conference. So like every other court in the state, we're urging people that have court business to do so remotely through telephone or video conference. The Northeast Housing Court currently offers several informational services to the community. Generally, you do not have to have a case before the court to take advantage of these services. And the court exists to assist both landlords and tenants and to assist both plaintiffs and defendants. That is, the person that brings the case or the case of the person against whom the case has been brought. We give information and assistance to all parties. I'll describe briefly what these services are. We have a virtual counter. What that means is that the court has set up a daily video conference space which is available from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Every business day, where anyone can dial in and video conference with a live person in the clerk's office or with a housing specialist. Housing specialists are employees of the court who can answer technical questions about housing cases, and they're an excellent resource for the community to learn information about how to go about solving housing problems and other residential housing related matters. There's a Lawyer for the Day program. Each session of the Housing Court is supported by the Lawyer for the Day program. This program consists of attorneys who volunteer their services for a consultation about a case, or in some cases, assistance at a mediation or at a trial. Like other courts, we also have phone access to hearings live. Currently, most hearings are conducted by video conference, but anyone from the public can listen in live to any hearing through a public open phone line, which is published in the court's website. And finally, we also have what's known as a tenancy preservation program. Each session of the Housing Court is supported by clinicians from the Tenancy Preservation Program. This program assists persons whose tenancies are in jeopardy because of issues related to a physical or mental impairment or disability. And the goal of their help or assistance is to propose accommodations in order to preserve that person's tenancy. For more information about how to contact any of these programs, you can reach the clerk's office here at the Northeast Housing Court, or you can look up information at the website of the Northeast Housing Court, which can be accessed through the general trial court website at mass.gov. In conclusion, the court exists to assist the community, and this is true even more now in these times with the pandemic looming large over everybody here. We recognize that housing is one of the fundamental issues that a community like Lawrence faces, and therefore we work very hard to provide a forum where housing problems can be addressed promptly, fairly, and dignity. We work also very hard to provide the community with the information necessary for people to know their rights and how to go about addressing any issues that might arise. Next, I would like to introduce First Assistant Chief Probation Officer Renee Lamoth, who will talk to you about probation issues.
Thank you, Judge Pato. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Renee Lamont. I'm the First Assistant Chief Probation Officer for the Lawrence District Court Adult Probation. I will be speaking on behalf of all probation departments, however, juvenile, superior, probate, and adult. All probation departments have been modified, but we've remained open throughout this pandemic, similar to the court. Although our style has changed, our mission has remained the same, which is to increase community safety by helping probationers achieve positive change. Each probation officer is working both in the office and remotely at home with cell phones and remote access to our software. We have continued to actively supervise probationers through teleconference and other virtual means. We have ensured each probationer in need of assistance with mental health or substance use be given proper treatment, either voluntarily or court-ordered. We have recently added housing beds for those struggling with homelessness and addiction. We have continued drug and alcohol testing with precautions at an outside lab. Our community correction centers are remained open for substance use, educational, and vocational training through Zoom or teleconference. Probation officers, along with our victim service unit, have remained in communication with victims. Probationers are allowed in the office for the installation or repairing of GPS and scrams in designated areas. As you heard, violation of probation hearings are done both virtually or in person if the probation officer is requested. Our drug courts and veterans courts have continued to remain virtual with weekly sessions. We have installed plexiglass and limited the amount of people that are allowed in certain spaces in our offices. All staff and any person coming into our office are required to wear masks. As I stated, the adult, juvenile, superior, and probate court probation departments are all working in a similar manner, supervising actively probationers. I'm happy to say that although this has been a challenging time, we have seen an increase in compliance by our probationers. Please, if you ever need any assistance from any of the probation departments, don't hesitate to call the numbers that are enclosed that you'll see in a minute. Now I'd like to introduce from Court Services, Kristen Wignett.
Thank you, Renee. Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Wiggett, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Court Service Center Manager in Lawrence. It's an honor to be part of this event and speak to you about the free services that we offer at the Court Service Center. Court Service Centers are part of the trial court. We were established to help court users with one-on-one assistance towards providing the goal of access to justice for all people, and to help eliminate any barriers to justice that individuals may experience, such as languages, social, economic, or literacy issues. Our center is staffed with 2 attorneys, including myself and our bilingual Spanish-speaking staff attorney, Jennifer Huste. We also have trained interns who often have diverse language skills, including Spanish. We also work with the Office of Court Interpreters to provide access to services in Spanish or any other language that you may need. We at the Court Service Center assist with completing forms, motions, affidavits, complaints, and the like. We also help court users understand the legal process, such as how to accomplish service of process on cases, and we can give you resources on how to present your case at hearings, including virtual hearings. We also provide referrals to community services such as domestic violence support, support for housing issues, food, and other legal resources and services that you may need. During COVID-19, we are helping people with emergency matters and focusing on those cases first. So, for example, we help with safety concerns, such as if someone wants to file an order of protection or a restraining order or a harassment order. We will help you complete all of those forms, the complaint, the affidavit, and so forth. If you have a loved one that's in crisis due to mental health issues or substance abuse, we can help you fill out those forms and submit them to the court for you. We're also assisting with emergency family court issues around, for example, guardianship, custody, parenting time, and child support. And we're also assisting with rental housing problems. So, for example, if you've been locked out, if you've received eviction notices, if you've had utility shutoffs, severe harassment, for example, by a landlord or another tenant, serious health violations, or serious destruction of property, we can assist you in connecting you with the right resources and assist you with filling out any paperwork that you may need so that you can get into court and be heard by the court. If you've had a judgment of default relative to housing or dismissal issued since March 1st, 2020, we can help you undo it, and we can help you with the paperwork. So the Court Service Center has been located in the Fenton Judicial Center for the past 5 years, and we are obviously now operating remotely via the Zoom platform. So the best way to get in touch with us to receive our services and get assistance with your cases is to join our daily Zoom meeting. And you can do that by either telephoning, calling in, and there'll be some information provided at the end of my presentation, or entering the Zoom link so that you can be connected with what's called the Virtual Triage Center. Throughout the state, there is one virtual triage center that will receive either the phone calls or the video connection, and they will determine whether or not you can be quickly assisted at that point and your issue can be helped and resolved quickly, or if you will transfer to one of the 7 court service centers throughout the Commonwealth of Mass. And in all likelihood, if you are from the Essex County area, you would be transferred into our center. And then we would assist you. So we have, as I stated, interns, but all of our interns have been trained and are supervised by attorneys. And if we do complete paperwork for you, all of the paperwork, pleadings, motions, affidavits are reviewed and approved by an attorney before they are submitted to the court. So we can complete your paperwork and return it to you, or if you need the assistance of submitting your paperwork to the court, that's also a service we provide, and we can submit it via email to the court and provide you with copies. There should also be at the end of this presentation other links containing online resources for the emails for the courts, phone numbers for the courts, so that you can also have those resources if you need. There's also a link for the sort of cases that I just listed that we will provide help with. Also, there are online resources that will show you, or links that will show you the kind of documentation that you may need in order to get our assistance. For example, if you were contacting us and needed emergency custody of a child, we may need to have a birth certificate depending on the circumstances. So you can look at that. You can look up the links that are going to be provided at the end of my presentation and see, what sort of paperwork you'll need or documentation so that you're ready to go when you're consulting with us. And also, just to note that we provide information, not advice, as we are a division of the trial court. So we can give you information about your case and referrals, but we can refer you to other legal services that will be able to provide you advice. For any non-emergency matters, there is a trial court helpline number, and the number is 1-833-912-6878, and there's available resources in English. There'll be available people to answer the phone in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. There's also another helpful link, and it is the remote services, and it's that second link that you're seeing right now. If you click on that link, you will see tips for remote hearings. You'll also see links for the Housing Court virtual front counter that was mentioned earlier, the Probate and Family Court virtual registries, Superior Court protocols and tips for remote hearing, obviously the Court Service Center remote services, law library services, and the trial court helpline. So there's a lot of helpful information at that link. We're here to help. We are helping in literally the same way that we assisted at the Fenton Judicial Center, just in a virtual platform. So feel free to contact us, and we're here to help and very eager to help you. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Narda Berrios, the Senior Manager of the Office of Court Interpreter Services. Thank you.
Good afternoon. OCIS was established with the premise that all persons within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, regardless of their literacy, proficiency in English language, had the right to equal access to the courts and to the services and programming resources available. Our office has provided interpreter services for over 120 languages, the top 10 languages being Spanish, Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Haitian Creole, Arabic, Chinese, Khmer, Russian, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. During the COVID-19, with court closures and now reopening, as of July 13th, OCIS has endeavored to provide interpretation and translation services for communities statewide. Interpreters are available to individuals with limited English proficiency by phone, conference phone lines, video conferencing by Polycom, WebEx, or Zoom, and in person whenever necessary. Interpreters are available to interpret for attorney-client meetings, court clinic interviews, and court hearings, such as arraignment, probation violations, warrant removals, dangerousness hearings, and mental health evaluations. Any other hearings that a judge considers necessary that an interpreter should be there in person. OCIS is staffing as of March 16th, the helpline. The helpline right now answers questions in Spanish and Portuguese. There is also information readily available at the mass.gov. You can visit that website for information about interpreter services. I would like to thank the interpreters that made this available this afternoon. Regional Coordinator Gabriela Burgess and Senior Staff Interpreter Rose Batista for their services. Please look at the information if you need services. We are here to help you. Thank you.
I just want to take a moment to thank all of our partners from the City of Lawrence, Vilma Martinez Dominguez, Community Development Director, and Alicia Miller from the Mayor's Health Task Force for joining us in this town hall today. I also want to thank Chief Justice Carey, all of our judges, probation, interpreters, and court service centers for participating and for providing the community with this important information. And lastly, I just want to let everybody know that the contact information for all of our court departments, court service centers, and interpreters office, and for the agencies and community groups that have been named throughout the program will be available on the trial court website. Thank you again.